We are ready to go. So let's go ahead and go to the table for our first round match. You can see we'll get those settings cleared out here as we're on game one across the board. Conneor, Mullaly, Will Krueger, and Dominick Paolercio versus Tim Hatch, Harrison Fang, and Mac Andrus. And we're going to begin in Legacy with Mono Red Prison versus 4-color control.
Yeah,
And
you would think, especially in the first couple of turns, that Mono Red Prism being the Blood Moon deck that it usually is, and I'm looking at the decklist right now, there should be at least 4 Blood Moons, 2 Magus of the Moon in the main deck. This is what you're looking to land on the first turn, right? If you are able to get, let's say, your Simian Spirit Guide and your Ancient Tomb down and get the Blood Moon down, it's almost lights out for the 4-color control deck. Like, they have ways to fight back, most famously Force of Will, and sometimes they play something like Force of Negation in the main deck. But this is really what you want to do. And I think usually the first 2 or 3 turns are quite decisive, even though I gotta say the mono red decks, they have some more staying power than they had to compared to in the past. Like, now that they have Fable of the Mirror Breaker, they can, loot through a couple of useless cards, and also sometimes just like eventually get you with a card like Den of the Bugbear.
Right. All right. So it looks like the players are probably waiting for us, so we can go ahead and give them the go ahead, unless they're waiting for the whole tournament. Okay, so now it's just going on, and let's get the game counts reset when we get a moment there. So we'll get into the leaderboard and such later on, but certainly these players' names are recognizable to people who frequent the coverage or the series events themselves. Thanks everyone for being up early. Well, it depends on where you are. Julian's not up early. I am. So it really is a local question. But so now, okay, so in Modern, if Yorion was banned on the grounds of dexterity issues, also, wouldn't that apply to Legacy just as much?
I was literally thinking the same when they announced it. I mean, Legacy, if anything, shuffles even more than Modern. But I guess a big part of that is just like in Legacy, the card has not been as problematic as it has been for Modern. This is what we're talking about, right? This is the turn 1 Magus of the Moon. We're going to spend basically almost our entire hand just to get that down. And it looks like Mac actually has the basic island, even looks to be a foil basic island, best island, right? But what we're going to need here is, I guess, another basic planes if we have it, which should be in the deck, I would think.
Yeah, there is.
Snow
There are a few
Plains here, one
basics in
of.
the deck. Yeah, it looks like there's 2 forests, 2 islands, and a plain. So there are some basics. It is obviously fortunate to have the island, and the ponder was kept with obviously the ability to shuffle is very limited without fetch lands. So we'll see if Dominick's able to build a significant offense here alongside the Magus. And well, okay. I don't know
Trinisphere not that big of a problem, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't think Trinisphere is going to matter a ton here. I'm sure Mac is much happier to have that on the board than, a Rabble Master or something.
Looks like Mac has 1 card I don't recognize, which usually means it's some kind of removal spell. Could be Swords of Plowshares, could be Prismatic Ending. But Prismatic Ending is problematic, right? Because we don't get to 3 colors yet to actually remove the Magus of the Moon.
Yeah.
So since we kept, there must be something we are able to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we've got a Fable on the board now for Dominick, and he's going to actually discard both of his cards.
That card is so good. It's basically an all-star in almost every single format. The only format I haven't really seen it in is like Vintage.
No, it does a ton here. All right. So now we have a sizable offense here for Dominick, and Mac's not going to have much time here. And yeah, he's got a couple mountains and an island. So Prismatic Ending is going to require white mana. But at this point, even if a plains is drawn, he may not have time to take out the Magus of the Moon.
Do you recognize what those either altered or promo cards are? Those 3 copies in Mac's hand. I thought might have been some kind of Swords of Plowshares. But it looks like, yeah, we're oh my god, this is the Ponder Keep, die on the 3rd turn, on the 4th turn rather.
Yeah,
Man.
that's rough. I mean, Mac did have the basic island, but with no Force of Will, the turn 1 Blood Moon effect in the Magus is I mean, this is tough. It's just tough. Yeah, it's just not the way you want to start your tournament if you're Mac Andrus. But you've got some teammates and you've got some more games yourself. So that's why you get 3. So if the opponent nut draws you in the first one, you're not out of it. So let's go ahead and switch formats here and see if we got something going on here in Modern. We've got a Hammer Mirror.
Oh man.
Fang and Will Krueger. Will Krueger has played Hammer off and on for quite a while now. I imagine both these players know the ins and outs of what's going on. We have Stoneforge on both sides, all the equipment on the Harrison side, but it's unequipped. So really, I'm not sure that's actually worth a whole lot.
Is there what are the best ways to get them equipped? I guess we got Sigarda's 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
one way to do it.
that's the ideal way when they're coming into play, which we don't have yet. So Core Outfitter potentially, or Pure Steel
Pure Steel
Paladin
Paladin, yeah,
would be
yeah.
what we're looking for. But we do have a germ at the bottom of the screen there that is carrying a Calder Complete, I think.
I mean, for as there's nothing really seems to be going on, I guess that's the I guess the level 0 play. Like you have your aggressive potential in that. And Whirl is to present something, right? Whirl is basically defending right now, but we
Mhm,
don't really know. I guess this could be the third turn, or could have been the
mhm.
third turn for Whirl. But we will see.
Yeah.
By the way, I really like those Batman sleeves.
Yeah.
That looks
Yeah.
amazing. I usually say people with like yellow sleeves, they scare me, and Will certainly does. But these Batman sleeves, man, this is something.
Yeah, we got yellow sleeves on both sides here. All right. So but yeah, Will without a superhero, maybe at disadvantage here.
Very
Uh
much.
a Calder Complete for Will off of Stoneforge would allow, you know, defenses here. So yeah, and Dominick, Harrison's not even going to attack. And was likely aware of that because Stoneforge Mystic has a habit of revealing, what's coming. As you can see,
To
Calder
us, it looked
Complete.
like the smartest play in the world to not attack there.
Yeah.
But to Harrison was like, dude, I just saw it coming from basically the last turn away. So yeah,
So
how do we break a stalemate like this, right? We see
yeah.
on Harrison's side of the board, we have Inkmoth Nexus, which can eventually take to the air and
Mhm.
try to win the game that way. We also have an Urza Saga coming off next turn, which is it going to find another hammer? I mean, that doesn't really do anything for us.
No, I think often what you'd look for in this spot would be Shadow Spear.
Oh yeah, that makes sense, right? So
Uh,
you get to go over the top of the trample, and you can also
right.
just maybe just get there with the Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. These constructs aren't going to hold up against the Calder Complete on Will's side. Will also has the Giver of Runes, so maybe there's the ability to get through unblocked, but with the germ and the white creatures and the Memnite, it's gonna be pretty hard to force things through on the ground. And here the Pure Steel Paladin for Will. So the Calder Complete can now move around, although it would cost the germ to do that.
This is interesting next turn. So from Harrison's side of the board, are we gonna make a second construct token, or are we gonna keep the option of maybe equipping a Shadow Spear to an animated Inkmoth Nexus to try to maybe get their own poison? I don't know how viable that really is.
Yeah, I think it can happen, but doing it 2 points at a time, I think, is a little rough. So, because you get to draw your card first, and we see the draw was actually Steel Shaper's Gift. Harrison will get to decide now. If
I
it's
guess
just a Yeah, go ahead.
to do it in the first place, we would have needed an untapped land, right? And it doesn't really look like we had a land there, but yeah, okay, no construct token. We're gonna
Right.
go straight into what you predict to be Shadow Spear, I guess. That makes a lot of
I think
sense.
that's something that, even okay, it's a Springleaf Drum, so actually Harrison's looking for more mana.
That
And
makes
with
sense. You're quite limited on that.
Right, and also with the Steel Shaper's Gift being drawn, that's another way to get equipment anyway. So if you're using your Urza Saga trigger, maybe you want to, if you're on the fence, you get the non-equipment since you can tutor
I mean, with
otherwise.
the Shaper's Gift, it also becomes viable to just get Nethercyst and try to equip that on the Inkmoth Nexus, even though that's still like a
Yeah,
lot of mana and a couple of turns, but you could potentially be able to win the game in 2 swings.
right. Okay. So here's a Pure Steel Paladin for Harrison, and with 2 Colossus Hammers on the board, this will eventually be pretty intimidating, although perhaps not this turn, as there is, as big as Harrison's creatures can get, the Calder Complete on Will's side on defense will be able to handle them.
So once we get to next turn, I keep going back to the Inkmoth Nexus. I wanted to poison the opponent. Inkmoth Nexus turns into an artifact, and we already have Metalcraft turned on anyway. So is that the play? Are we gonna try to just
Yeah.
like poison Will next turn?
I think next turn, I think that is extremely likely to happen. Harrison maybe considering whether he can make any inroads this turn or even just force a block, but that's profitable for the attackers. But I don't really see that happening either, as the Giver of Runes plus the Cauldron Complete gives Will effectively 2 decent blockers.
Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, this is how big is this construct?
How
This
much power
is
does it have? Yes.
yeah. Well, it's at least 25 just based on the equipment, plus its own self, which is probably another 10. And here's an attack, and
It has trample. So how are we going to handle this? And Will is down to
yeah,
15.
yeah, yeah. This
So
is
yeah,
it.
he
This
just
is
packs it
done.
in.
Yeah. The trample from Cauldron Complete. No reason to wait for next turn for the aerial attack, as the trample on Cauldron Complete is just going to charge right through Will's blockers. Were going to survive, but the problem is that Will's not going to.
That's one way to do it. Yeah. Indestructible. Players should be able to gain indestructible. I don't know. I think at some point in the future, as Wizards develops new mechanics, they will create equipment that you can equip to yourself as a player.
Well, we have that for the opponent, and we have curses, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Same mechanic.
a lot of enchantments are
Kind of that.
sort
Yeah,
of
true.
kind of like that. Yeah. All right. So here we are back in Legacy. We have a Trinisphere for Dominick, but Trinisphere, okay, and Blood Moon is more significant. Although, let's see, what do we got here? We got Islands and Forests in play.
Yeah, but we would need another basic forest to be able to eventually escape Uro. I think now we don't have enough escape cards anyway. Let me see if we actually have a second basic forest. Well, we would need to draw it anyway, but I don't. I see 2 basic forests in deck, so there's 1 left. But there's also the option of maybe. Oh, but we don't have once again, we don't have a basic plains. Basic plains is so important in the matchup because it allows you to prismatic ending to basically deal with a
Right.
lot of things that you care about otherwise, and we don't have it. So what do we even have to interact with? What's on the board here? We have Hydroblast from the sideboard that could take out the moon. We have 2
Okay.
Force of Riggers in the sideboard that certainly must have come in.
I mean, all that sounds good.
Yeah, that's what we need. And now that the threat has been presented and we don't have white mana to fight it, maybe something like an Icefang Codal. I see that Mac is playing the more over the top list that also plays 4 Abundant Growth and 4 Icefang Codals to make full use of. Oh, there goes the Hydroblast. Okay, to make full use of Yorion eventually.
Mhm.
Interesting, we didn't go after the Blood Moon.
Right. So Hydroblast takes out the threat, and then it gets replaced. And Mac Andrus is gonna. This is tough. Surprising, which I imagine it's pretty hard to get Death Touch on Coatl with Blood Moon on the board, but Mac actually does have 3 Snowland in play. So
True. Oh.
he can actually hold this off.
I guess the idea here is that we just try to take out the threats, because now we get to take out the second threat with the Icefang Codal, and then eventually we'll be able to deal with the Blood Moon or present any kind of other thing that we really care about. For example, we are already able, once we find it, to cast Minsc and Boo. We have the green, we have the red, thanks to the opponent fixing our mana. And then we can take over the game, because those 3 goblin tokens are not going to do it. Oh, there's Magus to Well, that doesn't really matter all that much if our plan is what I just referred to.
Yeah, it didn't, except I think Mac found Force of Vigor, which he would. I guess he can still cast. But now he can kill the Blood Moon and Trinisphere, but now there's a Magus on the board, so it's not gonna enough to get out.
Oh, that's such an interesting thing. In which matchup you have to prioritize Magus, and which matchup Blood Moon is more important. You also see that in Painter sometimes, because it's not quite clear, because as certain cards die to spells that your opponent might or might not have. But this, look at Dominick. Dominic's like, you know what? I got a third one. I just like keep goblining you down every single turn. And we got another Icefang Codal. No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Force of Vigor.
Okay, Force can take out Trinisphere and Blood Moon, and this Magus might be attacking to its death here, and this may have been an error for Dominick. Is this going to potentially allow Mac to clear out both of the moon effects on the board?
We found the second basic forest.
and this is, I mean, now there's no Blood Moon effect on the board, which I thought was going to be really the kind of hang up there. And Mac Andrus' hand is now unlocked. He's got a bunch of cards. Uro potentially could come in. Oh, you're right. There is the second forest.
We got all the possible options in the world right now, and
Yeah.
it looks like Dominick. This is how one card looks on the table. Yeah.
All right, Prismatic takes that out. Max going to activate a fetch line for the first time in the match, probably.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if Uro comes down, actually no, we're gonna go to 3, unless we're gonna play another land. So what are we gonna cast with 3 mana here? Maybe Expressive Iteration. I mean, that's somewhat brave, but if it's the only thing we get. Oh,
Yeah.
we're okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
Uro.
we're just cycling an Uro for life and the card. Oh, yeah, sounds good.
All right. All right. So these are the games Mac Andrus needs to win the games when his lands are unlocked, because obviously you're going to lose a fair amount of the ones where they are all mountains. Having 2 islands and 2 forests in hand is going to make it easier to recover if another Blood Moon effect comes down. And Dominick looking at just 4 tokens now.
Yeah, the choice for Dominick right now is, do I get in with the Den of the Bugbear, or do I cast what looks to be either a Trinisphere or another card I didn't fully catch right now?
Well,
I don't hate attacking with the Den. I
no,
don't
I don't
think the Trinisphere
either.
doesn't really do all that much for you.
Yeah, it's a matter of, even if you send in the Den and your opponent brings out Uro, can you beat that? So an attack this turn would be for 8 if the Den goes in.
That takes the
Dropping,
opponent down to 6, then they gain
right,
3 life down to up to 9.
right.
That's rough. That's really
Yeah,
rough.
that would allow Mac the ability to block the Den next turn and survive. So now, yeah, you're right. Dominick is contemplating this. The racing here looks like it's not a feasible plan, but casting Trinisphere isn't exciting either.
Yeah, maybe there's a second card, but it doesn't look like that's what we want to play here. Yeah, we just get in for 4 damage.
Right. So
Ideally, you'd have something like a Pyroblast on Dominick's side of the board, so you can punish your opponent for almost fully tapping out, and then you get in for damage on the next turn.
Mhm.
But we are 1 mana short of attacking with the Den and casting Pyroblast, so yeah, we're just gonna get in for full damage.
Yeah.
And that looks like Uruman on the left side if I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, those are brainstorms. Oh,
Yeah.
finally. Finally. We saw Mac die with 3 copies of that card in hand in the first game, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, but now we found out, yeah, brainstorm doesn't really do too much for you when all of your spells can't really be cast under a Blood Moon.
No, it is.
And that looks like a Swords to Plowshares that we're keeping there.
Yeah, and I think the Plains is in hand also. And even if it's not, Prismatic Visit can find it. So Mac's mana is fully enabled here.
Yeah, here comes Uro.
Plenty of cards in the graveyard. Dominick's like, isn't this card banned in some formats?
I guess you could you Mind Harness this? Yeah, it's a 3 mana green blue creature.
I see.
Hey. I want to bring back Mind Harness to Legacy. It's been such a long time since we've seen that card.
Is that the control magic that has cumulative upkeep?
Yeah, and it costs just a single blue.
Right.
And it can only be cast on red or blue creatures.
Okay, somewhat narrow, but yep, strong enough. I'm sure that's grabbed a Tarmogoyf for 2 in the day.
Rock Swarmonk, man. That's the one.
Wow,
I use Steve
that's
Murphy all
back.
the time.
Yeah. All right, here is a Blood Moon.
Mac is like, sure.
Yeah.
we shut off your manland.
Yeah, I have Uro in play. I don't care about that. Here's a Chalice. That might matter somewhat. No attack here, though.
Yeah.
And now the Den of the Bugbear is shut off by Dominick's own Blood Moon, too.
Yeah, I was thinking Mac might even want to play the Blood Moon in this situation. Yeah, now we take out the Chalice here, and I guess we just send an Uro. It's pretty safe. You get all the extra card.
Yeah. All right, so here is Uro on the way in. Gets Chump
I'm not
Lock.
even sure I Chump Block there.
Yeah. Dominick could have the idea that, well, he can live for quite a while chump blocking Uro, so maybe he can eventually get out of this. But it does look rough at the moment.
You're down on the board and playing against an opponent with a one-sided holding mind that also like an ivory tower basically as well. This is really rough. The red deck, it has some more staying power thanks to Fable of the Mirror Breaker, like I mentioned earlier, but this is not the kind of situation that this deck really gets out of. This is not what it's designed to do. This is too endgamey for it.
Huh, here's an Uro cycle into a Caracas
Sure.
and pick up Yorion.
This is basically one of those situations. The only card that people sometimes put in the deck is one of those end game Chandras, right? For 6 mana, uncounterable.
Sure.
And then they
Yeah.
try to tick it up with the emblem where the opponent takes like 1 damage every turn, and eventually
Mhm.
it just like outgrinds the Oro if you got enough jump blockers. This is exactly the kind of situation where it was designed for, where it could potentially come back. But I'm not really seeing it here. This
Yeah.
might be headed for a third game.
Yeah. Uh, Maybe a sequencing hiccup there from Mac last turn as that Uro that evoked and dropped. Actually, I take it back. I was going to say Caracas potentially could have saved it, but it died to the legend rule anyway, not to the escape. So that actually was irrelevant. But Caracas being on the board is certainly nice. The ability to recur the Uro if you're escaping it. But that only works when it's the only one on the board.
Yeah. I feel like this is almost the time where Dominick like just buys some time to maybe help the opponents or mentally wear out your opponent, but I don't really
Sure.
see that happening to Mac here. This is
Yeah.
pretty clear. Yeah, and we just go into the third game. Like there's no point
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
trying to continue
Yeah.
this from there.
All right. So this word's even up. Let's find us another game. All right. So modern is uh, in between games. Let's go ahead and shift over to the mono green mirror and Pioneer and check out how Connor and Tim are doing. Mono green is a mess, but I appreciate that both players have original artwork Llanowar elves. That's nice.
I don't know, man. Like when we watched that mono white mirror in Pioneer the other month, that was kind of crazy to me. But when I watch the mono green mirror, I'm excited because there's so much power going on, and I feel like eventually somebody's gonna put Genesis Wave in those decks. I'm not even sure if that's Pioneer legal, but that's what I would be doing in modern, in Pioneer. That's where I want to be.
Mhm.
It just it's so crazy, and you want to see that kind of crazy happen. But it looks like we are going down the combo route that you
Yeah.
explained to me last time, and I'm very much gonna trust you on that actually being a thing
Yeah.
because it seemed quite complicated.
All right. So there's a lot that goes on. So this is Chain Veil here in play for Tim Hatch. And so this is going to allow each activation is going to allow your planeswalkers to reactivate uh,
Sure.
for the rest of the turn. So this allows, Kiora to untap Nykthos, which I think is what we saw. It can allow Karn to wish again. Now we know that no, there's not much sideboarding going on in these matchups. These green decks in Pioneer have realistically often 1 or 2 actual sideboard cards only. The rest are just artifact targets for Karn to search up. And the decks, I think the trend in Pioneer is away from the off-color planeswalkers that make comboing easier.
Mhm.
But at this point in the game, it's still very much doable. And I believe that the dice in the middle are floating mana for Tim.
Usually the way it works is once formats become more restrictive in their card pool, they get a little bit, more chilled out, more creature combat. Hey, lightning bolt, sure, attack you, block. Oh, cool. But I look at Pioneer, and what I see going on in these mono green mirrors is by far the most busted thing of any of the tables right now.
Yeah, these green decks in Pioneer are extremely powerful. They can be very fast. That was a damping sphere pulled up for Tim, which implies that he
Tends to pass the turn, right?
right, exactly. But now we're flashing back Storm the Festival. Okay, so the reason, all right, I get it. The reason why he wished first because you don't want to off Storm the Festival, you hit another Karn, you would legend rule the Karn, so you want to wish first, even if you're not entirely sure what you want to get or what your plan is.
Could we be doing this in Legacy? Like, I feel like Control decks could almost struggle against this. This is just like
I
so
mean,
much stuff going on.
we have had the artifact Karn decks with I forget the name of it. The format artifact lets you play off the top. I mean that exists.
True.
But here we have Teferi.
Oh, you mean Forge? Yeah, that's
Yeah, right.
Forge. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the Teferi. So this is going to allow Yeah. Okay. So this Teferi is one of the cards I was saying how some of the versions are going away from this, but this makes it much easier to combo as you can untap a land, a creature, and an artifact. So Nykthos plus an elf plus Chain Veil, allowing more activations, and that Teferi already has an extra activation because Chain Veil had already activated. So that is the end of the Pioneer match, and as you can see on the board, it looks like Harrison Fang 2-0'd Will Krueger. So I believe we were just done as far as round one goes. Tim Hatch, Harrison Fang, and Mac Andrus. No reason to play out the legacy match if the result is already completed in Pioneer and Modern. And so that's how that works in teams. You only need to win. Your team needs to win 2 matches. And that's it. So Connor Mullaly, Will Krueger, and Dominick Paolercio fall into round one. But plenty of Magic left in the day. Julian, so have you played how? Now I don't know if this is necessarily a regional thing, but like, do you have much experience playing in team events in Germany? Is that something that comes up often?
I've played in a couple of team events. I've played in a team GP, and that was a lot of fun. That was especially a lot of fun. I remember seeing my teammate right next to me in Modern, and he was like about to scoop up the match. And I was like, dude, stop. I literally stopped him, physically stopped him from scooping up his cards. I don't even know if that's like technically legal. And I told him, no, wait. I think you can win in like 3 turns. And he literally did win in 3 turns.
Oh,
and
that's fun.
There's some interesting dynamics. I think it's more interesting when you actually have a good understanding of the other formats. I once played as the 3rd player in a limited format. I had no idea how it worked. And they put me in the middle, right? Because I had no idea, so I needed all the help I could get.
I mean, that's really that's the 2 ways to go about the team event for limited, or if it's like, triple modern or something, where you either put the best, most experienced player in the middle so they can help both of their players, or you put the worst player in the middle so both players can help them, which I guess was in your case.
Yeah. Well, it pretty much was. But I think after a couple of rounds, we decided we're going to call it quits. And then I won the Legacy side event and it was a great time.
Of course you did. Yeah.
But that was amazing. I very much love team events. And I think I actually talked to a couple of people. I think we want to do them again, but I'm not sure who's actually offering them in Europe right now. Like, guys,
Right.
you should be coming to Europe. NRG Europe, I've said it before.
I should. Yeah, we should. We have NRG Europe. No problem. We'll get right on top of that. We are already stretching a little bit. Yeah, in Ohio this weekend, which is a bit of a trek from the home grounds of the Chicagoland area, and definitely we didn't have as full of a house as we have sometimes. So maybe this is it certainly is under consideration for the 2023 planning. That it's in some respects, will you want to spread the series out geographically further to pick up new players, but also the players that's kind of your base. Sometimes you travel too far away, so there's a balance that goes in there. Working out the schedule for next year, we will see how it shapes up. In the meantime, we'll see if we can talk to one of the players from that first round. Okay, so that's being set up. But yeah,
Have you ever played in team events?
Oh yeah, I've played in team events. I've played.
They put you in the middle, and for which reason?
I have played. I actually find for myself, I didn't notice this for a long time, but eventually, several years ago, I did that. I'm able to. This is probably true for a lot of people. That I'm able to play better if I only focus on my own match. And so, even in individual matches, I try and pay less attention to my neighbors than I used to. And so, I'm not as like the drop off is significant when I'm trying to help other people in my own match. So I actually prefer not to be in the middle.
That makes sense. I think if you have 3 people who are very comfortable with what they are doing right now, there's almost, at least from what I've seen when I've watched other players play, there's very little interaction until maybe somebody loses their match, and then they might be looking over your shoulder, but they won't like actively stop you unless you're about to like basically blow up your board accidentally.
All right. So we are ready with the interview. Let's I don't even know who we've got here. There we go. All right. Well, Mac, that went all right there in match 1, I would say, for your team at least.
Sorry,
yeah, so that went all right. Benefited from the team scenario there a little bit in round 1.
Oh yeah, it was excellent. My team played some good mirrors. I was probably gonna close out our game 3. Pretty happy
Oh,
with
were
the
you?
play.
So yeah, so we didn't see your game 3. We saw okay, so just to kick off the event, game 1, round 1, going second, facing Blood Moon on the play, probably not what you were hoping for.
Oh yeah, I looked at my hand. It looked pretty bad. Uh, I was hoping to get some information out of my opponent and their exact construction, but
Mhm.
I was very dead.
Yeah, okay, but then game 2, you're facing down, Blood Moon, Magus, Trinisphere, and that time you're able to kinda dig your way out and take control of that game. So how does that kind of like, what's your priority in as far as the threats from the Bright Prison deck? Like, what matters the most? What ones can you kinda just try and play around when they're in play?
So the priority is to get out of their lock. Um, and I'd already started to dig out with some basics at that point, so I was pretty happy. But they're
Mhm.
pretty good at presenting a clock while doing so. So I want to like disassemble enough pieces and then try to avoid dying to like all their 2/2s and 1/1s.
Yeah.
At some point, I found enough my basics to cast Uro. So the
Mhm.
Blood Moon wasn't scary, but I was still getting mana constrained by the Trinisphere.
Right.
And then eventually I was able to clean up because Uro outmatches their entire aggro plan. Even
Sure.
swinging into Uro, they're just not going to be able to raise the life gain.
Right.
I'm curious about the two spare pieces in your sideboard. I've been pretty vocal about that. I think spare PS has much more of a place in Legacy again than it used to have. Is that also like a concession to Minsk and Boo being a lot more popular?
Yeah, basically these spots kind of coincide with the Hydroblast, Pyroblast, your 1 mana interaction. And you want to diversify, and in many ways, it's a concession to not only Minsk because you want more Hydroblast effects, but also this mono red Stompy list because you really want to beat turn 1 Chalice.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Sure.
So you
And
you
we
feel like
uh,
reasonably confident after sideboarding. I guess the first game can be quite swingy, depending on how the opening turns play out, and you often don't know what you're up against.
Yeah, yeah. I think on the play you have like a reasonable chance of winning, but on the draw you're basically conceding this matchup. Frequently, if they've kept any reasonable hand, you're sub 20% to win or something.
Mhm.
But the post board games are actually pretty close. Uh, the mono red deck has gotten a lot better at grinding recently. And the way people have built it means that like even if you parry the first or second lock piece, sometimes you just die to their 2/2s. Uh,
Mhm.
but I feel pretty good about this matchup. In fact, I chose to play the version of 4 color that plays a bunch of basics to have a bit of an edge here.
Mhm. Yeah, we saw that. I think there was what 5 not basics in your deck, so that's certainly some nice spread, some nice protection against the Blood Moon effects. And then yeah, so you guys were really on your way to clean sweep there in the first round. That's got to feel pretty good as far as your prospects the rest of the day.
Oh yeah, it's good to start off on your front foot.
Did you guys? Was there any? So you're playing the legacy seat. Was there any, team consultation on what decks you were going to play in each seat, or did you just kind of all decide this is what I'm playing, and then we're going to team up together?
Well, we generally trust each other.
Mhm.
I've basically committed to teaming with this group for most of the year, if not
Mhm.
for a while going forward. And we trust each other to select our decks. There was some consultation, but mostly we just locked in what we wanted. Maybe talked about a few sideboard choices.
All right. All right. Well, certainly off to a good start today. Mac Andrus, Harrison Fang, and Tim Hatch, the teammates, and you guys are off and running. Thanks for talking with us, and good luck the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a good
Okay. So that's going to conclude round 1. But let's go ahead and go through some of our upcoming information. We've got the season 3 schedule. So if we're coming to your area and you're just in playing, or if you just want to mark it on your calendar so you can watch and see what Julian has to say about the legacy format, Pioneer and Modern throughout the rest of the upcoming year, so you can see where we're at this weekend in Newark. Next month, there are actually 2 Rage events in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the beginning of the month, and in Mundelein, which is the nearby Chicago event at the end of November. And then the season wraps up in December in Louisville, Kentucky, our first event in Kentucky. So the top 2 players in points from just these 4 events will qualify for the end of the year championship, as well as the winner of the Louisville Showdown. So if you're interested in potentially trying to make an appearance in the championship at the end of the year, that is the way to go about doing it. Also, I want to highlight the Mundelein Saturday main event will be our first 10K Pioneer event. It's shown up as team events and in Sunday 5Ks, but that'll be the first standalone 10K. You can see there that event highlighted itself with some goblin token or other, or some card. I don't even know where this artwork comes from.
I saw chat actually asking, what have you been playing ever since the ban of Census Winding Top in Legacy?
What have I been playing in Legacy? I have been playing, actually, I've been playing mostly goblins.
Yeah, exactly.
With Food Chain. I haven't picked it up much in the recently. I am qualified for the DreamHack next month, so I've been playing pretty much exclusively Pioneer lately, and actually, I gotta say, enjoying that. But it's nice to have a project to work on, and in this case, having an event to prepare for, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and I tried out a few different decks, more or less settled on one, and then have been.
But you're not going to reveal which one it's going to
be?
No,
I've been playing Lotus. That's what I played in the last Pioneer Pro Tour, and it's certainly different now. With Underworld Breach having been banned, the deck is totally different. I still like it, but it is not the same as it used to be. I don't necessarily know that that's 100% what I'm going to play in Atlanta, but if I had to lock in my choice now, that's what it would be. But
so you can't be swayed to try the Mono Green Devotion. Dude, I just keep going back to how busted that deck looks.
It is. Well, also, I will say that I did try. I played a few decks, and I tried Mono Green Devotion, and I didn't give it a fair shot because the first match I played, I was trying to learn how the deck, and I timed out on Magic Online trying to combo through, and I was like, oh, this is a drag. So I kind of set it aside, and I was like, I'll revisit this later on. And I haven't really done it yet. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously not an excuse to not actually try a deck out, especially for a paper event. But no, I mean, Mono Green is obviously, I mean, Pioneer is interesting because there are a couple decks that are top of the metagame, but there are a lot of viable decks to attack those. And Mono Green, one issue I have with Mono Green is the lack of a sideboard. I mean, you're not really sideboarding much against anything. And that is in a big event. I feel like, all players from all levels are going to have qualified for this because the qualifiers are running across the world, across the country, and they're small. So it's not going to be just pros in this event, but there's going to be players that have experience, and you're not going to surprise anybody with Mono Green. Everyone's going to know exactly what you have, and that's not something that I feel like is an appealing aspect when you're going to an event where the players are experienced. But we'll see. We'll talk about this later. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back with round 2. This is NRG Gaming. We'll be here all weekend. Stick around.